If you're running a contracting business doing anywhere between $500,000 and $3 million a year, you've probably got ambition. You know where you want to go. You've probably got a number in your head for the next level as well, right? 5 million, 10 million, whatever that is for you. I'm pretty sure you've got the skills to get there, right? That's never really been the question. The question is, how do you get to the next stage without burning yourself out, without second guessing every decision, and without spending another 3 years doing what you've always done, hoping somehow that the results are going to change? What I'm about to show you is the answer to that question. 7 decision-making filters that when you install them, they take the guesswork out of running your business. Like hiring, marketing, pricing, when to spend, when to walk away, all of it is going to run through these filters. I've been building marketing systems and businesses since 2003. I've watched the internet go from dial-up to AI, I've coded by hand, and now I build with machines. I failed more times than I like to admit, and the few wins I've had in these 20-some years all have one thing in common: a clear system for making decisions. I call it the contractor operating system. And by the end of this video, you'll have all these 7 filters. Here's something I've noticed about contractors who break past the $3 million mark, $5 million mark, and $10 million and beyond. They're not really smarter than you, and they're not really more talented. The difference is that they stopped making decisions one at a time. Think about how most of us run things. A decision comes up: should I hire this person? Should I spend money on this marketing? Should I take on this client? And then we handle it in the moment. We usually go with our gut. We call a coach or another contractor. We ask a Facebook group. Maybe we flip back and forth for a few weeks and then make a call based on whatever pressure is loudest that day. Maybe each individual decision might even be fine, but there's no thread connecting them. There's no framework underneath. 6 months go by and you realize some of your decisions pointed north and some of them pointed south. And you worked really hard to pretty much end up in the same spot. The guys who scale, they don't do that. They have a system, they have a set of filters that they run things through. And pretty much once those filters are installed, like, decisions just get faster, clearer, and they actually compound on each other instead of canceling each other out. That's what this video is, the actual system. And somewhere in the middle of this, I'm going to tell you a story of a contractor who had a $2.9 million in revenue business, real momentum, everything working, and watched it all collapse because he broke one of these filters. That story alone is worth your time. But until then, let's start with the filter that sits above all the others. Filter 1, identity. This filter isn't really tactical, right? There's no spreadsheet for it, but it really controls everything else. So if you skip this one, the other 6 won't work the way that they should. In short, identity is your belief system. It's every assumption that you carry about who you are and what you're capable of, what's realistic, and what does it look like for people like me. And those beliefs, whether you like it or not, are making those decisions in your business all day long. Faster than logic, and they're quieter than instinct. By the time you sit down to really think about something, your identity already figured out half of the options. You just didn't notice it because it felt like common sense. Let me show you what I mean. Every contractor has a version of themselves that got them to where they are right now. That version is real. It built something. It survived slow seasons and bad hires and clients who didn't pay. So obviously we should give that version credit because it earned what you've got. But here's the thing, the version of you that built that $1 million business is not the same version that builds a $5 million business. There are different decisions, different habits, different beliefs about what's possible and what's worth the risk. So the identity filter starts with one shift. You have to stop asking, who am I? And start asking, who am I becoming? Because who I am keeps you loyal to the past. It sounds like I'm a hands-on guy, I'm not a marketing person, I don't do depth, I'm the kind of owner who's on every job. And those aren't facts. Those are pretty much beliefs that you picked up somewhere along the way and they made sense at one point. But some of them are now the walls of the box that you're operating in. Who am I becoming opens things up. It sounds like the company I'm building needs a leader who hires well, not a leader who does everything. It sounds like the guy running a $5 million business doesn't answer his own phone. It sounds like I've never spent $100,000 on marketing before, but the person I'm becoming would, because the math makes sense. That's not really about faking it, that's about giving yourself permission to grow past these beliefs that got you here. Now, let me make this really practical for you. 3 checks you can actually run yourself. First one, the fear check. When you're about to make a move, ask, am I pulling back because something is genuinely wrong with this opportunity, or am I pulling back because it's unfamiliar? Fear of a bad deal is smart, right? But fear of the unknown is just your old identity trying to keep you in familiar territory. They feel different if you really pay attention. Fear of a bad deal is specific. You can name the risk. Fear of the unknown is vague. It's just discomfort with no clear reasoning behind it. I still remember for Luan at Deck Bros, his initial investment was like 100 grand. His old identity, the guy running the $1 million business, would have said that's insane. But Luan wasn't making that decision of who he was. He was making it as who he was becoming, right? And who he was becoming could see that 100 grand was just the entry fee to the next million. And then instead of hitting 2 million, he hit $3.3 million in the first year. Then the 3.3 became 5 in the next one, and then almost 9 in the third year. And in 2025, he got to $15 million in revenue. The next check is the $15 test. Look at your yesterday. Every task, every call, every errand, for each one, ask, did this require my judgment, or could a $15 an hour person could have handled it? Because if your time is worth $150 an hour, every hour you spend on a $15 task is basically losing you $135. Most contractors do this for hours a day without even seeing it, right? And the reason they don't see it is that identity. I'm the guy who handles things. Nobody does it like I do. If I don't check it, it won't get done right. Those are beliefs, they're not facts, and they are really, really expensive ones. Because the person you're becoming delegates everything that doesn't require your judgment. Not because he's lazy, because he understands that his job changed. For the next check, we have the 365 test. Take today, exactly as it went, and copy and paste it every day for a year. Where are you in 12 months from now? If the answer is the same place, then the question is, which belief is keeping today on repeat? Is it, I need to be on every job site? Is it, I can't afford to hire that person yet? Is it, marketing is too risky? Is it, I'm too overwhelmed because I'm making hundreds of small decisions every day? Find that belief and challenge it. Ask yourself, is this true or is this just familiar? Because familiar and true are not the same thing, and the gap between them is where most contractors get stuck for years. The identity filter is this. Before any decision, ask yourself, is this choice coming from who I've been or who I'm becoming? If the person you're building toward would make a different call, you've got your answer. All right, filter 2, vision. Identity is about who's deciding, right? The person. Vision is about what you're deciding toward. And this is where I want to challenge you a bit, because I think a lot of contractors have actually genuinely skipped this step. Because you've got ambition and that's clear, right? But ambition without a specific target creates a weird kind of hamster wheel where you're moving fast and going nowhere in particular. There are two legitimate games you can play with a contracting business. And I want to be clear, both of them win. But they're completely different games with completely different rules. Game 1 is the lifestyle play. You're netting 250, 300K a year, right? You've built something that works, you've got freedom, you golf on Fridays, maybe you're building a personal brand on the side, running a podcast, showing up on social media, your wife is happy, your life has room in it, you know, that's a real win. And if that's your game, own it fully. Stop apologizing for not scaling, right? Your decision is already made, now live with it. Game 2 is the growth play, right? This contractor doesn't care about showing everyone how great things are. He's in the business, hiring, training, studying, working on himself as a leader because he knows the company can only grow as fast as the person running it. He's not really interested in looking successful, he's interested in building something that runs without him. Here's where this gets real. I was on a call recently with a contractor netting about 300 grand a year, which is obviously a super solid number. He and his wife, they had the lifestyle that they wanted, and he said that he wanted to grow. So we mapped it out. The math said roughly $100,000 a year investment, and then within 3 years, his net would probably comfortably pushing past 600 grand. Not theory, just the math, right? And he passed. And honestly, that might have been the right call for him. But here's what I want you to see. When you choose to protect a number, you're not standing still. You're choosing short-term comfort over long-term compounding. 3 years from now, the contractor who invested that $100,000 has a brand, has a pipeline, has a machine that compounds whether he's on the job site or not. The contractor who held back is still doing the same thing pretty much, right? Still hoping that the next year is going to hold up the same. And this is kind of the trap, right? Like short-term feels like winning because nothing hurts today. Long-term feels like losing because you're spending money now for something that you can't really touch yet. But long-term always wins because it compounds, right? And short-term can't. The vision filter is one question. Have you picked your game and named your number? If you haven't, every decision you make this month is going to fight with the decision that you made last month. And that's the hamster wheel. That's the thing that makes you feel busy but not progressive. Moving on to filter 3, standards. You probably have standards, right? I know you do. The question is whether they are written down and specific enough to actually change a decision when the pressure is on. Because here's when standards get tested, right? When the job is 40 grand and the client is already showing red flags. When the employee is talented but, keeps crossing the line. When the vendor is underperforming but switching feels like a hassle, right? In those moments, most contractors negotiate with themselves. Well, I'll let it slide this time. And every time that happens, the standards get lower until it's not really a standard anymore. So here's what makes a standard actually work. Take something like, we deliver quality work. Every contractor says that. But what does it mean specifically in your company? Does it mean that you won't use cheaper materials even when the client pushes for it? Does it mean that someone walks every single job before the homeowner sees it? Does it mean that if your crew made a mistake, the client would never even notice because you just tear it out and redo it anyway? That's just one side. And now let's flip it, right? How do you know when you're slipping? What's the early signal? Is it when callbacks start creeping up? When your foreman starts saying good enough instead of checking twice? When you stop walking jobs because you're too busy? If you can answer both sides, what the standards look like when you're living it and when it looks like when you're drifting from it, now you've got something real, something that actually makes decisions for you when you're under pressure. Here's another one. We respect people this time, right? Great. But what does it look like on a Tuesday at 2 p.m.? It means that maybe the estimate starts on time. The callback happens today, not tomorrow. When a project gets delayed, the homeowner hears about it from you first, not the other way around. And when your office manager tells you that someone called twice but nobody picked up, that's your signal that the standard is slipping. Every standard needs 3 parts. What it looks like when you're in it, what it looks like when you're drifting, and what happens when someone crosses that line. The third part is where the real value lives. Because enforcing standards means saying no to money sometimes, right? Walking away from a 40 grand job because the homeowner disrespected your team before the project even started. Maybe letting go of a skilled worker who keeps violating the thing you said you wouldn't tolerate. Before joining us, Thomas was running a $2.5 million business and pretty much breaking even. He'd been paying an SEO company $900 a month for 5 years. $54,000 in total, and nothing to show for it. No accountability. There was no written line that said, if a vendor can't show me measurable results in 90 days, they're gone. Without that line, it was always easier to keep writing the check than to deal with the discomfort of changing. Now, since they became a client, I'm super happy to report that they're crushing it. Just bought a huge space for a showroom, and we're probably looking at $5-6 million in revenue this year. One more piece on this before I forget. Know the exit before you can enter. Before you sign any contract, before you bring on any hire, before you shake hands on a deal, answer this. What does walking away from this look like? If you can't answer that clearly going in, you're going to find out the hard way coming out. Moving on. Filter 4, source. You know that feeling when someone gives you advice and something in your gut says, this guy hasn't actually done this? Trust that feeling because you're probably right. The contracting space has way more noise than almost any industry that I've been in or seen. Coaches, consultants, masterminds, Facebook groups, conferences, you name it. Everybody's got an answer, right? And most of those answers are coming from people whose own results don't match what they're selling. Here's a very quick way to calibrate. Let's say that your coach did $3 million in a year, right? But that was 5 years ago. Since then, his business has been sitting at $1 million a year. Maybe he updated that slide deck, maybe he didn't. But that number hasn't moved. Now, a $1 million contracting business netting 20%, and I'm being generous with that, is 200 grand a year, right? But now take out his own draws, putbacks, and what he spends on maintaining that appearance of success, and he's clearing less than his best foreman. I'm not saying that he's a bad person, I'm saying his results and his advice are in two different zip codes. And when you're actually paying someone between $3,000 to $10,000 a month to guide you to $10 million, the first question should be, has this person ever actually been where I'm trying to go? Watch what people do. Forget what they say. The gap between those two things tells you everything that you need to know. And here's the thing that should actually encourage you. The answers aren't really hidden, right? They're not behind the $20,000 mastermind paywall. The contractors who are dominating their markets right now are pretty much showing you everything, right? And it's in the open. Tommy Mello, A1 Garage, $300 million business. Michael Hoy from Great Day Home Improvements, $1 billion business. You'll find videos of him online. Matt Reisinger from Reisinger Build. He has the Build Show podcast, right? And there are others. Study these guys' stuff and look at what they do online with their own businesses, right? It's all visible. You just have to pay attention. There are 3 rules for this filter. Number 1, judge the source by what they do, not by what they say, right? If their life doesn't match their advice, move on. 2, the information is accessible. Who has already accomplished what you're aiming for? Go and study them. Reverse engineer what's working because it's all right there. And 3, and this one will save you years of spinning, 1 strategy, 1 advisor, 90 days. Pick a path and commit to it long enough so you actually get the data and then evaluate. Collecting 5 opinions and following 0 of them feels productive, but it's the exact opposite. If this is landing for you, hit subscribe. I'm going to go way deeper on each of these filters in future videos. Filter 5, math. Every decision in your business has a math answer. Most people never really look for it because the emotional answer shows up first and it's way louder. The math filter is about building the habit of asking, what do the numbers actually say, before you actually act on how you feel. Let me show you the most common place this goes wrong. You hire the call center, 5 grand a month, their job is straightforward. A lead comes in, follow the script, qualify them, set the appointment, and that's it. But they can't follow the process. They're skipping steps. They're not asking the right questions. They are putting unqualified people on your calendar. And you can see it, right? You've known for weeks, but you signed a 3-month contract. So you tell yourself you might as well just write it out. Here's the math on writing it out. You're running 100 leads a month through the system, right? Let's say that 10 of those were real buyers, people who were ready to move forward. But the call center fumbled the handoff, right? They didn't follow up right, they didn't qualify properly, they just lost them. Let's say your average job is 70 grand, right? At the 25% close rate, those 10 lost leads represent $175,000 in revenue in 1 month. Here was our client, thinking that he was being responsible by honoring the contract, but he was actually losing 35 times what the contract cost just by staying in it. And that is called sunk cost. And the trap always sounds the same. I already spent the money, right? The money is gone either way. Stay or leave, you don't get it back. The only question worth asking is, what is staying costing me right now? When you reframe it that way, the answer gets obvious fast. Now, here's something that most contractors have never actually sat down and figured out: your margin model. Think about 2 restaurants, right? One is a neighborhood burger spot. 400 people through the door every night, $12 average check, thin margins, but the system is so tight that every single burger comes out the same. The line is out at the door, because the volume is the game. Speed, consistency, predictability. The other is a high-end steakhouse, maybe 40 covers a night, $200 average. Massive margins. But every detail matters, right? The service, the experience, the presentation, because one bad night with a $200 customer costs you way more than just money, right? It costs you reputation. Both of these businesses make millions, right? But there are completely different decisions to get there. So which one is your business? If you're building custom $50,000 projects, you don't need 200 leads a month. You need 15 of the right ones. Your whole game is positioning, trust, and making every customer want to tell their neighbors. That's the steakhouse, right? But if you're running $7,000 jobs, you need a machine that doesn't stop. Your game is volume, efficiency, and a process so dialed in that your crew doesn't even have to think about stuff. And that's the burger spot. Both of them work, right? But pricing like a steakhouse while marketing like a burger joint, or running a volume operation and wondering why margins are thin, that's where contractors get stuck without really understanding why. Your margin model is going to dictate your pricing, your marketing, your crew structure, your sales process. If you don't know which game you're playing, you're making those decisions in the dark. All right, moving on to the last piece of math. Before you actually fix anything, make sure that you're fixing the right thing. A contractor reaches out and says that his close rate is terrible, right? He's about to spend $10,000 on a sales training program, and it kind of makes sense on the surface, right? But when you look at what's actually happening, right, the problem is upstream. His website is attracting price shoppers. The leads coming in are people looking for the cheapest option. His sales team isn't failing, they're literally being handed the wrong people to sell to. In this case, $10,000 on sales training fixes nothing, while that $10,000 on positioning may just fix everything. The math filter is about diagnosis before prescription. What's the actual bottleneck? Not what feels most urgent. What is actually the constraint? Fix that first and then move on to the next one, in order. All right, filter number 6, volume. The contractor running 100 leads a month sees a pattern that the contractor running 20 will never really see. At 100, you know which zip codes buy, which ad brings real buyers, which time of day the best calls come in, which services have the highest margins and which ones eat your time. At 20, you're working off gut feel, right? You think you know, but the sample size is so small that you could be completely wrong and have no way of knowing it. This pretty much applies to everything in your business, right? More interviews and you get faster at spotting who's going to work out. You do more estimates and you learn how to read the homeowner in the first 5 minutes. You do more content, more reviews, more visibility, and you start understanding what your market actually responds to instead of what you assume they care about. Volume is how you go from guessing to knowing, right? And the biggest thing that kills volume isn't resources, it's hesitation, right? Sitting on a decision for 3 weeks when you had enough information to move on day 2. Waiting for the right time to hire when you needed someone like 6 months ago. These principles are straight from Amazon's leadership playbook. One of them is recognizing two-way doors. While some decisions are one-way doors, right? Others are two-way doors, meaning they are reversible and you can correct mistakes quickly. Very, very few decisions are one way. You know, having, for example, a kid, that's pretty much a one-way decision. And the next one is don't wait for all the data. If you wait until you know everything, you are probably being too slow. Decide fast, correct later. At your revenue level, the danger almost never comes from making the wrong call. It comes from making no call and watching another quarter go by. Our client Carter with Exxon Point, he turned the volume up, a 700% increase in calls, clicks, and messages. That wasn't just more leads, that was a completely different level of insight into his market. What was working, what wasn't, and where the real opportunities were. And now we're just scaling, right? If 2 years back his best year was 400K, in March of 2026, he just closed $650,000 in 1 month. Keep your hook out at all times. Always hiring, always attracting, always building visibility. Reviews, content, SEO, all of it compounds. And the contractor who started stacking 2 years ago has a lead that you really can't shortcut. Just gotta pump those numbers up and be consistent and be relentless. All right, filter 7, momentum. I told you earlier that I was going to share a story about a contractor who had everything working and lost it. Here it is. Tony built his business up to $1.8 million, doing a little bit of everything, you know, kitchens, bathrooms, basements, you name it. Then he made a really smart move, right? With our help, he narrowed it down. Just basements, same team, fewer distractions, more focus, and over the next 18 months, he went from 1.8 million to 2.9 million, right? And that's momentum. One system that was just getting better and better over time and compounding and compounding. And we ran with that simplified system for about 2 years, right? The money was good, the business gathered 100 reviews and a stellar reputation, and we were just growing and growing. Then Tony thought to himself, imagine what happens if I go bigger. He brought in an investor, started a design firm, got into home building, pulled his marketing in-house. He changed, 5, 6, 7 things at the same time, and it just all fell apart. He was bankrupt in 4 months. Not because any single move was catastrophic on its own, because he tore out the engine that was working before any of the new things had a chance to prove themselves. He traded that momentum for ambition without a system. And momentum doesn't come back easily once you break it. And I see smaller versions of this constantly. A contractor is generating leads from a system that's working. Then he swaps his CRM, changes his follow-up process, reorganizes the sales team, and new call handling, all in a 3-month window. Then he says that the marketing stopped working. Bro, the marketing was fine, right? He just kept pulling things apart before they even had time to show what they could do. Every time you change a system, you get at least a 20% inefficiency burden. New tools take time to learn. New processes mean that your team is slower and less confident until they adjust. And if you change again before they even adjusted, you've just created a cycle where nothing ever gets optimized because nothing ever gets a chance to run. 4 rules for momentum. 1. 90 days. Nothing gets judged before 90 days. No system tells the truth in 2 weeks. 2. Optimize. Don't replace. The fix is almost never scrap everything. The fix is finding the one broken piece and repairing it. 3. Every change has a cost that doesn't show up on the invoice. Confusion, slower output, your team not trusting that the ground is going to stay solid under them, right? These hidden traps compound really fast. 4. Simpler wins. If the solution requires 6 new tools and 3 new hires, something is off, right? The best move at any stage is the simplest one you can actually follow through on. All right, beautiful. 7 filters. Identity, vision, standard, source, math, volume, and momentum. You don't really run all of these 7 things on every decision because maybe a hiring decision might need identity and standards and volume, right? A marketing decision might need math and momentum and source. These are not really steps, right? They're lenses. So pull out the one that actually fits. Carter was 21, working out of his parents' basement. He wasn't failing because he lacked talent. He just didn't have a system for deciding what to do next, right? And then he got one. And a bit over a year later, he's on track to $5 million. Nate had 15 years in the trade and nothing online to show for it, right? The skills were always there. What was missing was a framework for where to put them. 18 months later, $3.6 million. Luan was doing $1 million, right? Comfortable. A lot of guys stay there. He ran the numbers, saw where the filters pointed, and put 100 grand behind it. 4 years later, he now raked up $15 million in revenue in 2025. And I'm sharing this because they're kind of the same contractors as you, right? They have the same ambition, same skills. They just had a system that made the path clear enough to actually walk it. And you've got a decision sitting in front of you right now. Something maybe you've been thinking about. A hire, an investment, a change that you keep on circling. Run through those filters today. You already know more than you think. You just need to run the decisions through this framework and your life will get much, much easier. All right, I'll see you in the next one.